So this video is going to be going through the basics of my Notion to-do list tracker, in which I am slowly developing a gamified system that will act as my real-life HUD or menu that you'd find in a video game that tracks everything that needs to be done, all the stats and all the progress you're making. Now, this again is the very first version of what I'm sharing publicly. This is going to have a lot more iterations before I even think about properly sharing this with people, because I find I want to test it a little bit more before I actually share it with others so that it is providing the most value possible. Now, if there are things in here you want to take, by all means, take the ideas, run with them as you will. But I will be sharing this at a later date once I have it a little bit more developed and not just a simple task tracker. Because right now, all it is the quest system. Again, I want to develop this out to be a full-fledged system where it covers all aspects. But right now, all it is my to-do list. It is effectively taking all the tasks that I need to do and think that I need to do, putting them through an algorithm that sorts them via a level of importance based on the priority of what they need to get done, when they need to get done by, and the overall importance of how much it is implemented in the overall goals that I'm working towards. Now, if you've watched one of my previous videos from about a year ago, I talked about a quest system, this idea that you have different sections in your life which are working on different quests. And that's what this is based around. It is a quest template where basically I'm working through both figuring out a main quest and the sub-quests underneath. Now, if you haven't actually figured out what your quests are, go watch a previous video of this week, or the one that I released last September, I believe it was. Basically, in life, if we start creating quests, we should always have one priority main quest that we're working towards, that most of our energy is going towards, and then everything else acts as a side quest, something that can still provide value, but isn't that one goal that we're working towards. That's the mentality of this system. As you can see, most of the screen is taken up by that main quest. So looking at the top part, the one thing that I found super important is to actually outline what the quest is. Figuring out exactly the wording that will remind you, this is what I'm working towards, this is why I'm working towards it, and this is kind of why I'm willing to sacrifice the time of relaxation or doing nothing. This is what I am trying to work towards. In particular, once written out, I highly recommend actually highlighting the key words so that at a glance, you don't need to read through the whole thing. You can look at it and go, enter description of the goal, wanting to achieve why. Just by knowing those keywords, I've figured out, oh, okay, that's the message of that part. So make it simple, make it something that you can both look at every day and be reminded of what you're working towards. Once you have that, we're going to figure out some of the sub-quests that go and work towards that goal. And that's where this part down here is. So this is actually going to be the quest that you're working on currently at the moment. And once you work through that, it's actually going to break it down into a couple of different sections. And here is going to be exactly the next task you need to do. Now, this is all done so that you can front end all of the work. You can sharpen your axe, set up the system and go, okay, here is every single task that needs to get done. And then because of the way that I've implemented this, it has a background that is looking at the prioritization of it all and then feeding you the number one most important thing at this point in time. So right now, this would be task A of task 1. Now, that may not make a lot of sense, so let's actually click into what the main quest system is at the moment and show you how it gets that. So, if you look over here, basically, this is creating a system in which you are then going to be setting up a few priorities at the top and then going through and defining what the tasks are. So, up the top here, we have the status, which is effectively to do and done. I did have other ones where it was in progress and whatnot, and that did kind of work for a little bit, but I think at the base level, having a status where it is, this is what needs to get done, and this is what I have done, is both simplified enough, but also impacting enough to go, okay, it is a binary yes, no, it is done state, which I'm going to be going through and explaining another system in a couple of weeks of actually how I set up my tasks, which is the boss system. It's a different sort of acronym I've created that works for me and the theming that I'm going for here. But you can kind of see it here. So B is the binary state. The binary state of a task is it complete? Is your task something that can have a yes-no statement attached to it? Have you done 100 push-ups? No? Okay. How many have you done? 95. That means you haven't done it. Have you done 100? Yep, that means you've done 100. So having that yes-no state is exactly why I've kept the status to a to-do and done. Because that way I know exactly where it is sitting in that sort of system. The next is the priority. Now, at a base level, I like to set my priorities at about 3. This way I can go, this is the base level, There are some that feel less important, and there are some that feel a lot more important. Obviously, 5 is the most important, 1 is the lowest importance. If you have nothing, then it's actually not going to incorporate that at all, so you won't get any benefit from prioritizing it. And each of these things, as I said, goes into an importance factor. Now, I'll show you that little code later, but basically, each of these is going to take into effect what the prioritization is, so this, whether or not it's done or not, and then the third thing it's going to be looking at mainly is the date that it's due. So let's say overall project can be due on whatever day, and this will help prioritize what tasks you're working on next. So once you have that, again, there is going to be 2 different types of quests. There is a main quest and the side quest. So the side quests I'll get into a second, but right now we're going to be working on the main quests. And then obviously a little progress bar, just to show you where you are at in the overall progress of the quest. Admittedly, there's a lot of other properties I've been working on to make that coded backend side of thing, but one thing that is important, if I can find it, importance, right there. So it's this little -9 with the little progress thing. This is what helps define the system of this is the most important. I'll show you that in a little bit, but basically all of these properties are just to get that value on everything and help prioritize. So here's a little walkthrough of the boss system, which is basically, again, that binary state of can it be completed, then order of attack, so figuring out the steps that you need to get through. So phase 1 is doing this, phase 2 is doing this, phase 3 is doing this. And then the specific actions after that fact. So it's going, okay, in phase 1, these are the steps I need to do in order to finish that before I can move on to phase 2. And then finally, we have the actual quest system put into tasks. So you can see here, I have 2 main tasks. One is the quest task 1, and one is quest task 2. And right now you can see that this is actually sorted by not only the quest it is, but it's using the priority function, so that 1 to 5 that we defined before, to see what the most important task is. And even though task 1 is the one I outlined first, if task 2 is more important, and I don't need to finish task 1 for it, it will show that as the thing I'm working on first. And then as we go down further, you'll see that you can break down the quests into, okay, that requires a task A and a task B. And then once you've done all of that and set those priorities, you can go through and choose when they're due. So you may have seen that although task 2 is much higher priority to me right now, over here, it's showing me task A of that quest task 1. And that's because in the schedule, quest task 1 is due first. So it's going to take this into account and go, okay, that one's due first, and task A is due first there. So let's take into account, although task A is 4 and task B is 3 as the priorities, if I move task A down the calendar a little bit, maybe a little bit more, because it has some different things, and I put task A due to today, you'll see, sorry, task B, it will then prioritize task B, just based on those 2 properties. So that's how it figures out what that main task is. And to go into further depth of that, what I'm actually going to do is jump back over here, and I'm going to go down to the side quest system to really show you how that importance value works. So side quests are, once again, those other quests that, although are important to you, are not the ones that are pushing towards your main goals. They don't help in any regard directly. They may have artificial benefits after the fact. You may learn a new skill that you can then apply to something. But right now, these are the other things that you still need to get done, but they're not as high of a priority. In here, what it does is it creates this little tab part here when you're creating a task. I highly recommend adding a header to it when I do it, because it just helps me visualize, okay, that's that task, and separates them and not just, okay, here's the tag for that. So let's say we go into side quest 1. Once it loads, you'll see that it has the same priorities, but it's set to a side task. Still has that sort of binary state and whatnot, but as we go down here, you'll see that I've actually shared the importance task. Now, this important task takes a couple values. It takes the prioritization of the 1 through 5, it takes the date system, and it takes a couple other things into account. So if something is blocked by another one, so if it has a subtask, that its number, as you can see here, so 11, although it does have a higher value than task B, it actually shares the same value there because it has subtasks. If it has something as a subtask, it has a lower value because you need to finish those subtasks before you can finish the main one. Now, as we go down, you can see that each of these have a different value. Now you may be wondering, why is task C so low? And that's because this one actually has a blocker. So if I click into here, you see task C pop up. And I open this up, you'll see it has a parent item, and then it also has, a status of done. So I actually haven't unclicked that one. But you can see that that's taken into account. Oh, that one's done. Do not put it as important anymore because it is done. It minus 1,000. So there's all these different values that take into account this. So if I actually change that to do, you can see the importance bumps up to 30 and it becomes the most important task that I need to get done. And there are a couple of things here that I can play around with as well. But if something is blocked by another task, it's actually going to make it a lot less important because you need to finish the other one first. And again, these are the things I'm playing with over time. This is not going to be the most eloquent way of showing it. This is not going to be the most detailed breakdown. If you want to figure out what this is going to be like, in a couple of weeks, I may release a version of this for you. If that's something you're interested in the description down below, I have a link where you can sign up via email to get first access on this. But here is basically, you can just go through, see what the most important task at the top is, and then just start marking it off. And having this simple view of, this is the next thing I need to get done, that's the priority, just work on that, has simplified a lot for me because I spend time entering all these into the system. I set that time at the beginning, sharpening my axe, making sure this is working for me. And then once I have that, I can go, okay, now that what's in there, I don't have to think about it. I just need to focus on what the next task is. And by doing that, it takes all this stress off my shoulders. Yes, there are all these other things I need to get done, but I know that this system is working for me so that I can get them all done in the way that is working the most towards my goals, especially my main quest up here. Now, there are different views, so let's say I want to actually just have a look at all the tasks and whatnot. Here are my main tasks, and I can actually set that so it's not just showing the complete ones. But here you can also see, okay, main quest 2 is blocked by main quest 1. I need to finish that one first, and because that's blocked, it has a minus 10,000 score. So do not show this at all until I finish task 1. And it's simple things like that, where these 3 priorities of status, priority, and blocked have drastically changed how I think about the tasks I need to get done. I can go and start figuring out like a web where it is, okay, I need to do this and this and this, like a domino system, where once the first one falls, I can move on to the next one and we'll continue on. Eventually, that small domino at the beginning can really get to that large one at the top. And then, yeah, that is effectively the system I'm working on. The only other thing that is attached here is a check priority, and that just helps figure out basically going, here are all the tasks for task A, here are all the tasks for task B, or should I say the main quest and the side quests, and then in doing so, it then shows only, the side quests here, and then it only shows the main quest here. But yeah, that's effectively how I'm using Notion so far. This is how I'm also developing the system. This is only one small section of what I, in turn, plan for this to be. I plan to play around with this and really start figuring out, okay, well, how do I track my habits? How do I track my overall progress and things? How can I see what I'm working towards, but also look back at what I've done and feel good about that? How can I reward myself like I would in a game? There are so many different aspects that I'm studying in regards to the gamification of how games can trick you into honestly wanting to do this boring thing over and over. And applying that in a way where this becomes my game menu. I don't know exactly what this is going to look like, but this is the first version and I want to share it, bumps and all. I don't want this to be a perfectly produced video because it is just showing the back end. Now, I'm going to be making more of these videos, so if there is another part of the system you want to see, please write in the comments down below, tell me what you want to see. But also, if you want a first early access to this, in a couple of weeks I will be sharing it, so click that link in the description to sign up via email, and I'll send you the link basically once I have it open and ready for you guys to play around with. But that is it for today. That is the system that I've been working with the past couple of weeks, and it's been working fun. But it does require a lot of refinement over the next couple of weeks, and probably the next couple of years, honestly, if I can intend to use it for the rest of my life. But we'll see how that goes. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.